Hey everybody, Tom Barnes, stories from the 78. It finally feels like fall, Halloween season, and all the movies are starting to pop back up on the streamers. AMC, God love that place because they play every single Halloween movie that's been made, I feel like, from time to time. One of my favorite Halloween movies is Halloween 4 because it resurrects, so to speak, Michael Myers and it restarts that franchise of Halloween and Michael Myers, so much so that they've made movies up until like 2 years ago. And, like 2023 or 24 was like one of the last Halloween movies that they've made in the current storyline. But I digress. How about talking to somebody that had direct impact on making that movie? I'm talking about the director himself, Dwight Little, a Cleveland guy who went off to Hollywood and dreamt of big things, has done big things, has made lots of movies, worked with some of the biggest stars in Hollywood, TV shows, and he's got a little advice for any aspiring filmmakers or people that want to get into television. And he's going to talk to me now for this story from the 78. Dwight, pleasure. How are you?
Good morning, Tom. Right as rain, as they say.
Fantastic. And you coming off a new book that you published called Still Rolling. I got it right here.
There's a
Uh,
picture of it.
yeah, a documented, or it documents, I should say, your love of movie making, your rise from a kid, I believe in Cleveland, right? You were in
Cleveland, right?
Cleveland,
Not far. Yeah,
went
yeah.
out to Los Angeles and decided to do the whole movie thing. And here we are. You have a book about it. So some of it's gone right for you, right?
Yeah, I made a couple right moves. Not everyone, but a couple.
How does a kid go from dreaming about movie making, growing up in Cleveland in the Midwest, arguably one of the best spots in the United States of America, the Midwest, right? It's just got all of the seasons, all the feels, but so looked over by the rest of our country, East Coast or West Coast. So, how does a kid from Cleveland set roots in Hollywood and makes some of the biggest movies that of a generation, especially in the horror genre?
Well, I was turned down by everybody first. Let's start with that.
Okay.
I tried really hard to get into Northwestern, and, and they
Well,
wouldn't take me.
you and
And
me both, my friend.
yeah, I tried some East Coast schools, and then I just on a flyer I sent my student film festival award-winning film out to USC, and they took me. It was just kind of a shock because I didn't have the
Wow.
money to travel all the way out to California and the expense of it, and so that was a separate problem. But I got into USC, which even then people were starting to be aware of it, although it wasn't like film school crazy like it is now.
And that from one of your student films, you got the attention of Mustafa Akkad, who is the producer. He was the rights holder for the original, or he was a partner with John Carpenter for the original Halloween, but it was like he financed the movie, right? And
Right.
then
He was the executive producer. He financed it. Absolutely.
and then after Halloween 3 and the it took a veer on Halloween 3, and I would argue now that it's not bad. It's a fun Halloween movie. It's just not the Halloween movie that everybody knows.
It's just
And
not my fault. That was
it
the thing.
yeah, exactly. But you were like, I read the story about how you like you get called in because they see your work that you've done on your student film. You go in and you pitch the producers. They gave you like, what did you call it? You called it something, the movie treatment, I think. And you
Right.
read
They
it and you're
picked
like,
me.
it's not the
I
greatest.
don't like it.
You're like, here's this, and that is so, I can't, it's so refreshing to hear, but it's so Midwest of you to go, yeah, it kind of sucks. I have an
Yeah.
idea though, and you didn't do it in a way that people perhaps might think like of a Hollywood way. You were just being true to your craft, true to what you believe. And you're like, here's what I think. And you came up with like this plot for Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, in the way that pretty much came out on film, right?
I did. I had a lot of help with my partner, Alan McElroy, also from Cleveland, by the way.
Yeah, you both went out there,
And,
right? Both went
yeah,
out to
and he
California?
not at the same time. He's younger than I am, but we found each other in Beverly Hills of all places. But anyway, he really helped. We kind of tag teamed the script, but I went in alone and I had it worked out. I said, guys, let me just tell you Halloween 4, and I pitched him the whole movie. I mean, the insane asylum, the prison break, the coma. the going, getting his overalls back, shutting down the town, finding his mask, the whole
Mhm.
thing, the rednecks, the twist. And by the time I was done, they said, "Well, thank you for coming in."
Which is usually code for get the hell out, right?
Yeah, which is like, you took up already plenty of our time.
Right.
And then my manager at the time got a call from them saying they really want to do this, but there's no way you can have a script ready because you just pitched it in the room. And I just said to Alan, I said, look, the writer's strike is at the end of March. That means pencils down at the end of March. And this was maybe February. And he said, I'll do it. So we tag teamed the story, but he sat down and he just wrote it. He's a genius he's so fast. And he wrote it, turned it in. And then Mr. Akkad said, okay, I got to have this ready to go by mid-September because we have to do the trailers and the TV spots and all the things to get it ready for the second weekend of October. So it was go, go, go all the time.
And not only that, but you were up against people in your circle who thought you were nuts for doing this because Halloween 3 wasn't well received. People were thinking, it's not even going to be it's going to be a straight to VHS, as they used to say back in the day.
Yeah, it was a tarnished brand at that time because Halloween 2, was fine, but it wasn't the sensation. Halloween 1 was a sensation. And then 3, it just was thought of as a miss.
Yeah.
Okay, let's put the franchise to bed. That's enough. And Michael's dead, by the way. He was
Right.
blown up at the end of 2. So he's dead. Season 3, which they wanted to start this anthology idea, so it was a dead franchise. So people said to me, Dwight, how are you going to reboot? First of all, you're poaching on John Carpenter. How are you going to reboot it? You're going to get criticized for. And I'm like, guys, I have like $1,000 in the bank. What do I care?
I mean, not only you have your friends telling you, like, or your industry folks going like, what are you doing? Like, this movie's
Yeah,
dead in the water. It's a B
right.
movie at best. But then you looked and you read into it and you read that this was a Directors Guild movie. So you were going to be able to get what was important to you back then. You're going to get, like, not only you'll be in the guild, but you'll have insurance. You'll be able to pay
Right.
some bills for a little while more than you're like, this is what I've been waiting for, right?
Well, like health insurance and a pension and a little
Right.
bit of money, some of the basics.
Not to mention stepping into the shoes, so to speak, not like obviously redoing a movie, but stepping into the franchise that was John Carpenter's, who
Yeah,
started it. No pressure there, my friend.
yeah, no, who's a major filmmaker, and so I just thought, well, I'm going to just die on what I want to do, and let's see if anybody else likes it. So I really made what I wanted to make, which was I wanted to do Silence of the Lambs. I kept telling him I want to do a cop thriller, and I know you guys are all going to roll over because you want to do a slasher movie. But we'd seen all these slasher movies, in the '80s in particular. There was an
Yeah.
avalanche. Terror Train and Prom Night and
Friday the
you know,
13th.
yeah, there's so many.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that teenagers fooling around and getting killed is really, that's been done. So I said, we've got Donald Pleasant, so I'm going to look at it as a detective. I know he's a psychiatrist, but he's going to be my cop. And he's on the hunt for an escaped convict, who is Michael Myers, who's going back to his own town to stalk a victim and killer who happens to be a child, in this case, Jamie.
Yeah.
And yes, it's going to have jump scares, and yes, it's going to have suspense, and we're going to be creepy but it is going to be like almost like a thriller. And so that was my directing approach, my writing approach. And I think when people saw the movie, it seemed kind of new all over again because it wasn't like, okay, here's a party and here's the kids getting high and fooling around.
Hmm.
And here comes Michael and he's going to stab them all. And then we're going to go on to a bunch of kids camping and they'll be fooling around in the tent. It's like there was this cliche about slasher movies.
Yeah. Very formulaic at the time.
And Halloween 4 was not that. It was, now, I got all those Cleveland trick-or-treating streets and I got all the details of Halloween because I had trick-or-treated a lot. So I kind of knew.
Well, yeah, you're a
And
Midwest guy. You grew up in
yeah, I
Cleveland,
mean,
right?
this
Home
is
of
what we did,
Superman and of yourself
and the Browns.
and the
Uh,
Browns and the Guardians.
nah, that's the Browns. Once the
Browns.
Guardians, well, that's a sidebar. Once the Guardians became the Guardians, I checked out. I went to
I
the
kind of
Indians.
figured I heard that a lot from a lot of people who are
Yeah,
native to
I went to
Cleveland.
the Indians games my whole life, so
Exactly.
you can't rebrand it and then expect me to stay with you. Anyway, so I thought a real Midwestern feel. It was Haddonfield, for Christ's sakes, so that's where we wanted to be. And I think that the approach at that time made the movie seem kind of new. I don't know how well you know the movie, but
Oh, I've seen it
there.
every Halloween
Okay,
several
yeah, so
times.
you
I
know
love
that scene.
Halloween. I don't
So
know if you
that
can
scene
see.
where,
Do you see that hat back there?
yeah,
Hold on.
the orange
Hold on.
one.
Here we go. This is how much I love Halloween. Whoop.
There it is. There it is. The
Oops.
orange. That's all. That's awesome.
There we go. Sorry. I'm pinching my finger on my headphones.
Yeah. So that's there's a scene early on when Loomis is trying to get to Haddonfield and he's hitchhiking and
Yeah.
he's picked up by this preacher, this crazy preacher, who tells him a little bit about hunting the devil and looking for evil.
Yes.
And it's a weird little scene, and it's nothing to do with the movie really, but it really sets the tone. And there are little tidbits like that in Halloween 4 that none of the other Halloweens have, which I feel make it really kind of fresh. Also, the relationship between the older sister and her boyfriend, and the family dynamic of her having to babysit her kid when she'd really rather be hanging out with her boyfriend.
Yeah.
I leaned into these domestic problems so that it wouldn't be horny kids getting killed. It's like actual people.
Right. That's what makes it rememberable versus
I,
unforgettable, right?
but
Like a
I think,
run-of-the-mill 80s horror movie.
right, because you care about Ellie Cornell, Rachel, and
Hmm.
her relationship with her foster sister, and the parents seem stressed out, but they're trying to do the right thing, and you get a sense of the town a little bit.
Yeah, when you mentioned the conversation about the devil and that man with Donald Pleasance in the car, that sets the tone that there's something more than what we thought about Michael Myers. Like,
That,
because we're on the fourth movie, but it's the third one with Michael, and it's a whole different ball game. And I read in your book about just that opening scene where it's just the opening credits, and you were like. Was it like you were like out scouting around? Was it like Salt Lake City, which is a great
uh-huh,
replacement for the Midwest? In
right.
terms of the visuals, because it looks like it was like April, but you were fooled into thinking that it's the fall because they kind of look the same. Let's be honest. If you're
Well, I did do it. I think I mentioned in the book, I did a lot of research about the agrarian roots of Halloween.
yes, hmm,
The end of the harvest season, the beginning of the long cold winter, early the night comes at 4 in the afternoon, the dread.
yeah, we're on
And
our way to that right now here in
yeah,
October.
yeah. And so I wouldn't say stole, but I was inspired by a bunch of, 19th century images like,
Hmm.
scarecrows with gloves on and, stuffed pumpkin men with pitchforks. It was all eerie and weird, but very Halloween.
Yeah, yeah, it fully comes through, and obviously, almost to your surprise, at least according to the book, where the movie was a hit, like 2 weeks in a row, number one. You went to go see it, and you thought that the line that you saw was for another movie. You had the wrong theater, and it turns out no, people were in line for
Yeah,
Halloween
that was a
4.
weird moment because there was no way that was the line for Halloween 4. We were just like a sequel to a slasher movie, and we assumed that was the Jodie Foster movie that they were lined up for. And then we circled and said, well, wait, where's Halloween 4? And then we went around the block. I don't know if you know Westwood, California at all, but
Mhm.
there's several movie theaters in that area. And then we kind of said, no, it's that theater. And, it's like somebody asked, we rolled down the window, asked somebody in line, what are you guys in line for? Halloween 4. And we were like, holy shit.
I bet. Holy shit. I mean, not a few years before you're just getting your start, and here you are directing Halloween 4, putting it together, pitching it in the pitch meeting to a bunch of people who didn't want to hear what you necessarily had to say, but
No, they
were
did.
interested in it, to have you direct the movie. You work with Donald Pleasance. You resurrected Michael Myers from the ashes of Halloween 2 to
Right.
now. How many? I mean, there's been several afterwards. I mean, they
Well,
just
it's been for years, right? It's just,
yeah.
well, there was, I think, 6 in the original bunch, or was there 7? I can't. I think H2O actually maybe was number 7, and then there were 3 in the new reiteration. But there are also 2 Rod Zombie ones that are sort of, I don't know, out of canon, as they say. He
Yeah,
did his own.
he did
He
his
did
own
his
take.
own
I
thinking
liked it
too.
because he was just menacing and dark, and Rob Zombie. You kind of knew what you were signing up for with the Rob
Yeah, yeah.
Zombie thing. But
He had a point of view for sure.
yeah, but
Yeah, sorry, I love Malcolm McDowell as an actor, but I'm sorry, Donald's not replaceable, right?
yeah, of
You
course.
just you can't, because without, without Loomis, I don't know. It's very hard for me to. I didn't watch any of the last 3. I saw part of one in a hotel, and it just looked like a kill zone to me. He smashes through the windows, he slaughters people, and then it was just like a killing field.
Yeah, they
And
really, they
and it was
really were.
too.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I mean, I'm 45, so I grew up with all of those movies as like a
Right,
impressionable teenager.
right.
And then like when they would, you'd see like the preview for Halloween 4 or Halloween 5 or H2O, like The Curse of Michael Myers, I think was 6. But I couldn't wait. Like Friday at 10 o'clock or Thursday, the sneak preview night, when they used to do that back in the day. You remember that, like a
You're
sneak
going,
preview at
right?
midnight? I couldn't wait. I was that kid with my best friend, and we go, and a lot of those. I mean, Halloween 4 was fantastic in that because it brought back. It's so weird to say Michael Myers is like a
I know,
hero for people, and in a
I know.
weird, twisted horror movie way, he is like Freddy Krueger is. You know what I mean? Like these are their heroes
Well,
of the
there's
horror.
Jason,
Yeah, of course,
there's Candyman, there's Pinhead. There's,
all of them. Yeah,
it's
and
a,
Candyman rings home true here because it's a Chicago movie that
yeah,
happened here. Both of them, or the 3 of them, I should say. Maybe there's 4 now, but the remake is what I'm talking. The 2 remakes and the original, and those were great. But you know, to launch the movie the way you did back into the stratosphere, and to have it, albeit weird, uh, you know, last endings of it, the last few were like you were talking, it was missing a little bit of what made it Halloween. It was all about the thrill, and I know that Jamie Lee Curtis was a part of it, and that was a big thrill for a lot of people to have her back into the movies
yeah.
after so many years. But
She's not Laurie Strode. She's like, I mean, no offense, but she's an angry older woman, which
yeah,
is a very, very different thing
right,
than a cute little high school girl. It's a
yes,
very, very different dynamic. And I also think there's an expression that's come along since I started making films of this kind. And now there's this thing called the kills. Right? No one. This was not an expression when we were making it. It was like we need a sequence here, and we got to put the. I don't know if you remember at Halloween 4 that we put that thumb in the guy's forehead,
yeah.
which no one had really seen that before, and it was so fun because it was the simplest movie trick in the world. Right? It didn't
Mhm.
cost anything. It's just it's a fake hand with a retractable thumb. I mean, it's almost like student filmmaking, but when you see it, it's really shocking to the audience, and it was a great kill. But
Mhm.
now people talk about how many kills the Terrifier's got, 62 kills, or Halloween 3. It's like it's got great kills, and I find this very depressing because yes, you want the evil and you want the threat and you want the fear, but it should be about the suspense, and it should be about how you fight the evil. not just
Mhm.
being slaughtered. But this is just this is my old school view of things.
No, but I 100% agree, only in the fact that you mentioned Terrifier, and that movie is all about that, right? It is nonstop in ways where you're just like, really? You know, a
Right.
couple of them. But, and I feel like horror movies now, like, you know how everything goes through phases, right? There'll be all these kind of horror movies that come out, and then there'll be a whole new thing, like the Conjuring series, and there was a bunch of haunted house movies and what, so on and so forth. But with the slasher movies or horror, like the typical, or the OGs, I should say, like, you know, even Friday the 13th has suffered the same fate. Like, the reason why the original Friday the 13th was so revered is because of their story, right? The story and the kills. Same thing with the original Halloween, the story and why, and surviving the story, surviving the kills, I should say. You know, and that, I feel like horror movies have lost a little bit of that. They're more about the special effects and the kills versus the actual story and the acting, right? You know,
Well,
and
then you become numb to it because if you look at, I'll use Silence of the Lambs again as example. You know, when Jodie Foster's in the basement and blindfolded, and
yeah,
I mean the suspense is to the roof, right? And that's terrifying. You know, when you can build a suspense sequence like that. And I think this one they did recently kind of struck a nerve called Weapons.
oh
Did
yeah, I watched
yeah,
that with
but,
yeah, the
but
kids and the witch,
it had a movie star, number one,
Josh
and that,
Brolin.
yeah, and that makes a huge difference.
Mhm.
She's very well known too. The Ozark, I call it the Ozark
The
girl.
Ozark, yes, I can't think of her name, but yes, she was the
But
Ozarks.
Josh Brolin's like a serious movie star, so immediately the movie feels much more grounded and like, oh, okay, and they have production value, and it was a concept that was a little bit different.
Hmm.
You don't quite know what did happen to the kids. It's a mystery.
Hmm.
And where did the kids go? And that is intriguing because you want to figure it out, right? Where did the kids go? I
Absolutely.
I didn't love the payoff, but a lot of people did. Um, that they were stuck in a basement down the street, but still, um,
But then the
some
dad, his character refusing to just give up, like looking at the video of all the doorbell cams and going, "Well, they're going that way." Like, there
right,
was like you said, there was suspense, there was building, there was a story to follow, and
and we had to unravel a mystery.
yeah, and it was creepy. Like, my wife and I watched it, and we both love horror movies, and we paused it at one point. We're like, we looked at each other, we're like, "This is a creepy ass movie," and
It
that
is.
doesn't happen too often anymore with so many movies coming out just to, you know, just to make a movie. Like, that actually had some thought, and you can tell it
Well,
had thought. It was
I'll
nice.
pitch you a few that worked for me. I thought Talk to Me was very
Yeah,
clever and very unusual. I thought Barbarian was so
another great.
smart with the structure, the way they shifted the gears in the middle of the movie. Um, there's a shot at the beginning, like the first 3 minutes of Longlegs, the Nicolas
The Nicolas
Cage.
Cage movie, yeah.
Girl's in the snow, and she's standing there in front of this creeper, and they don't show his whole face. Do you remember this
Yes,
shot? Because
yes,
he's got his hair,
yeah, mhm.
and he's standing there, and this very innocent little girl. But they don't. It's unbelievable the way they shot it because it's not what you saw; it's what
Yes.
you imagined,
Yeah, you know, it's
which was
funny.
which was worse.
Yeah, it's absolutely. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I talked to somebody a couple weeks ago about movies, horror movies. I think it was, believe it was an author who wrote a horror novel that took place here in Chicago. We were talking about how she had a house that was the main character, that was the house that was eating kids, right? That was the,
Right.
and she was like, I don't show pictures of the house in the book on purpose. I want people to be scared of what the house in their mind is. And
Uh-huh.
I was like, "Oh, like, it's so interesting." Like, and I said, "Do you remember when, like, Blair Witch Project came out way back before anybody knew that it wasn't, like, people were fooled to think it actually was found footage for a hot minute, right?"
That's
And
right.
the scariest thing about that movie at that time was the fact that there was this witch that was scaring these kids, tormenting them, and you never saw the witch. But yet, when you went to the theater the first 2 weeks it was out, and you were all in on the story, it scared the living shit out of you because you're like, that movie's terrifying. I don't, and you go back now and you look, you're like, it was all in your mind. Like
Right.
that's brilliant storytelling, though.
It's good. It's also they didn't have any money, so it solves
Oh
two
yeah.
problems.
Well, sometimes, I've worked at uh, a TV station in Chicago called WGN, and they had the Cubs games on for years and years and years. Famously had no money on their morning show, and it's a huge morning show still to this day. The only reason why it became so good at things is because they learned a long time ago to turn $2 into $5. And they did that over and over. And when you do that, you get creative, you find different ways to do things, and when somebody tells you no, you show them that you will. And I feel like that's what that movie is. I feel like the first Halloween, the first Friday the 13th, all were like low budget movies back then, where they're like, oh yeah, all right, well, we're going to figure out a way to do this. Just because you tell us no doesn't mean we're not going to do it.
Well, you talk about budget. They really fought me hard on what we now call the roof sequence because
Mm.
it became very expensive. And in the original draft, actually the whole house was on fire. We couldn't do that. But I said, I can't give up. I can't give up this roof sequence. I can't get it up. So they came up with a plan because we couldn't get a house with the roof and the safety and the stunt people. It was way too dangerous, So we got the production team to build us this roof in a field. So it
Mm.
was like a half a roof. So even and it wasn't that hard a structure to build. So even if when you're at the peak of the roof, let's say those actors were only, at the gutter, it was maybe 3 feet off the ground, like you could climb up to it. And
Sure.
then maybe at the peak, you're 12 feet off the ground. But so if you see them climbing up to get their nails into the top of the roof, there's stunt guys all around them. And we're not that high, right?
Right.
So the minute one of the girls slips, or the minute or even if Michael falls or anything happens, there are people right there, and they're all tied in like you would a mountain climber. What do they
Yeah.
call it, crampons or whatever? They're all locked in. So once we came up with this plan to cheat it, we were able to do it on budget. But that sequence is a centerpiece of the third act of the movie. Michael's coming up the stairs, they're trapped in the attic, they get out through the window,
Right.
and then they get up on the roof. And that sequence is unbelievable. Even for me, that scares me.
I mean, you've done a lot of. We've only talked about one of your projects.
I
You've
know.
done you've done many. I mean, it's Halloween time, and I'm actually right now. I have the one that you just did with Robert England in it. I have it playing. I'm
Yeah,
watching. Yes.
very, very different movie, but look, not everybody loves it, but it has some fans. So you never know with these things.
Well, and I imagine you just you've done movies, have done a lot of television as well, and you've made a career for yourself. The kid from Cleveland made a career for yourself. Like, I know the book is a lot about, aspiring filmmakers or people that want to get into television or what have you, and the message you want to give them. What is the message that you want people to know from your career through the pages of your book, through this interview here?
Well, I think step one is you have to know yourself. Now, what do I mean by that? You have to be a self-starter because this is not a job where you can put in your application, go to LinkedIn, and find your phone will ring to invite you to go direct a movie. There's
Right.
no job, right? There's no movie director job. You have to hustle your way through your whole career with scripts, buying short stories, creating things, packaging things, knocking on doors, going to companies. You have to sell all the time, and you have to believe in your product, but you have to get up every day with no one looking over your shoulder and self-start.
Hmm.
So that's number one. So the question you have to, are you a talented filmmaker, blah, 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 are you a great actor, writer? Okay, all that's great. But are you a self-starter? and just be honest with yourself. If you're more comfortable working in like a organized environment, with a schedule and a plan and a paycheck on Friday, this probably is not going to be for you. If you are a really aggressive entrepreneur, that's a great start. The second thing is find your lane early.
Mm,
Like, because if you make a short or a digital project or your first feature, whatever that is, rom-com, thriller, drama, horror, sci-fi, whatever that is, number one, make sure that's your lane, like you love it. Because if it's successful, which you're hoping it will be, because why
sure.
else make it, right?
Yeah.
If it's successful, the first thing you're going to be asked to do is something like that. And you're going to be in that lane for a long time. Now, I tried to step out of my action horror lane on a family film called Free Willy 2.
Hmm.
And the movie came out well, but no one wanted me as a family. They didn't think of me that way. I mean, I did it, and Warner Brothers was happy with it. But the first thing they said was, Dwight, we like Free Willy too. You did a good job, but we want you to go do this Murder at 1600 with Wesley Snipes, which was a cop movie, right?
Yeah.
Even the studio that hired me to do a Whale and Kids movie, they wanted me back in my lane. So my point is, if you're going to make your first low budget movie, you're short, whatever the thing is, make that who you are. And don't try and cheat it. If you make a horror film just to get noticed and you don't really like horror movies, it's not that likely to succeed. But
Interesting. It's almost like when a band has their hit, right? Like, and then they don't want to play the hit anymore, and they go and people are like, "Well, why the hell didn't you play?" You
yeah,
know,
I'm only here for the hit.
right?
Um,
Like, I'll listen
I
to the other
know
stuff if I know the hit's coming.
I knew of some managers who had a band way back in the day. And they toured with them all the time. The band was called Player, and they literally had an album, and on that album they had a hit. It was called "Baby Come Back," and played in rotation on the radio forever.
Baby,
So
come back. That one.
yeah,
Okay,
here
yeah.
they come, the fool.
Uh
Good
huh.
see, right? But that was it. It never had an encore. And, it's that classic one-hit wonder thing.
Mm,
But because of Baby Come Back, they were able to tour for a while and make some money.
yeah.
But if you're a player and you go out on stage, you better play Baby Come Back.
Yeah. Absolutely. Otherwise, what the hell are we here for?
That's right.
Ah, fascinating. And you have so many other movies that we haven't even talked. You mentioned Murder at 1600 and a story about not getting fired by taking Wesley Snipes out of a trailer.
Yeah, I had to get him out of the trailer and up to set because we were losing the day, and Warner Brothers wouldn't pay for us to go back, and I was about to lose everything.
Ah,
So I had to basically manipulate him out of the trailer. And that was tricky because he's a smart guy, and he's not easily tricked. And so I had to use the mayor of Washington, D.C. to lure him out. And it worked. It was a very tricky moment.
I imagine being a director in the years you've done it, I bet you there's plenty of times you're like, I didn't think I'd be doing this as a director. Like,
Right. And
because you're like a
there's a lot.
psychiatrist, you're like a therapist for somebody that, because you got to keep it all together. It's on your shoulders.
Well, I think parent is is the really
Parent. Yeah.
is
There
the
you go.
you're the parent. You've got children everywhere, and they're called actors and actresses. And they're children, all of them. I mean, in a good way, because to be a good actor, you have to be willing to play, right? You have to make believe. It's pretend.
Mhm.
Like
It is.
you're pretending to be somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And there's something childlike about that. Even our most revered actors are pretending. Russell Crowe is pretending to be uh, the gladiator. He's
Right.
not a gladiator. He's pretending. So in order to wrangle all these children, you have to kind of be the parent and say, now, no, we talked about this. You know, you can't have your snack until you finish, like you have to parent them.
Is
And
that
and
some
then,
is
no, go
that the
ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, is that the thing that when you went to, you did all your schooling and you paid your dues and you get on a movie set and that kind of stuff happens, you're like, what the hell? Like, I have to worry about the movie. Now I have to worry about this. They don't teach you this. Like, this is what you
They
just have
don't.
to learn on the fly.
And that's the part of directing that's really intuitive and instinctive. There is a point as a filmmaker where you should, at least, you've got it technically. Like, how to arrive on a location, how to shoot it, how to block it, how to make your day, where to put this technocrane, where to put the B camera, what lens. Like, but you should know it almost intuitively. Well, that's a steady cam, and then put the steady cam back in the truck and bring me the doorway dolly, whatever, all that technical stuff. You get it pretty
Mhm.
quickly. And you can actually learn that. You can study it, and you can learn it. But how to handle Steven Seagal in a bad mood, that's a different situation.
I bet I've only seen and heard stories about it, so I can imagine what it was like in real life.
Yeah, and he was, when I had him, was early in his career, so he was not so bad. Um, I made a huge, embarrassing mistake on Mark for Death because we wanted to show him in a church in Chicago, by the way.
Oh.
And he was confessing about something he'd done. And we didn't have the money, uh, to go to Chicago for that. So we got some stock footage. And the stock footage looked like this beautiful Chicago church. And it cut beautifully with the interior that we had. So we picked that shot.
Mhm.
Well, I later found out that it was the like Department of Water and Power or something. It's some beautiful government building in Chicago, but it's not a church. And so anybody from Chicago was like, well, now hold on.
Which is rare to say about a government building being beautiful, and especially in an
They
older
do.
city where most of them all look like Soviet era buildings, right?
I don't know if you know what this building is, but it's a kind of landmark Chicago building. I swear to God, it looks like a church, but it's not. It's a utility of some kind.
Well, I'll have to go back and look now just
Yeah, check,
because
check
it's been a
check
while
it
since I've seen that movie, but I will go back
out.
and look.
The Mark for Death was just like Howling for a surprise hit, and he does. Steven goes from Mexico. He goes back to Chicago, and there's a lot of it takes place in Chicago, which we shot primarily here.
Mhm.
And then from there, he goes back down to Jamaica, and the movie ends pretty much down in Jamaica.
You have that sense of a little surprise hit in you. What do you attribute that to? Is that just you believing in you and what you talked about, staying in your lane, really trusting yourself and knowing that you do good work, you do good work, so just get out of my way and let me do my work.
Well, part of it is that if you're going to fail, and you fail on other people's ideas, that's crushing, right?
Yeah,
Because
good point.
you knew better. So if you try and make everybody happy and do what they want, and then you fail, but if you say, okay, I'm going to live or die on what I bring to it, and that, sometimes it works out, sometimes they're flops, sometimes they're hits, but at least it's your flop or your hit. And because it's so tempting to try and make everybody, the producers, the network, the studio, make everybody happy. It's the star in particular, and you
Mm.
can't.
Yeah, even in your book, you mentioned, you thought there was a particular story that was like a shoe in of a great hit. You bought like the rights from the book to make it a movie, and it just didn't work out the way that you thought. But it goes back to you. I rather like, and I agree with you 100%. I rather fail doing it the way I think is best, knowing the best way to do it versus failing because I just didn't listen to myself and I went this other way from this person who clearly didn't know what they were talking about, and it flopped worse than I ever could have imagined.
But that doesn't mean don't take good advice. It
Right.
does, and keep your ears open. I mean, Spielberg constantly talks about he's had his best ideas from the grips. Somebody will whisper in his ear, and if he knows it's a good idea, use it.
Right.
Right?
Get
Like,
over your ego.
don't dismiss it because it came from the grip and not from the writer. Maybe it's a great idea, but you have to know and recognize that it's a great
Dwight, I can talk to you all day about this. This is
idea.
fantastic stuff, and I don't want to take up any more of your time because it is we're getting on in time here, and I know you got other things to do, but I want to make sure people know about your book, Still Rolling Inside Hollywood's Dream
Yeah.
Factory. If people can
People,
get this book, where would you like them to get it?
well, I think the easiest in today's, just go to Amazon or Barnes and Noble online and just order it. I do think people who are interested in film, interested in a career in film, or just interested in movies are going to be interested in this. It's as it's got a lot of pretty good stories, but it's also has practical information in it too.
As a person who's still in the business, were you reluctant to give out some of this advice about past experiences, or you're like, you know what, it happened, whatever. I'm not hiding anything.
No, no, I'm kind of past that
Good for
now.
you. I can't
No,
wait to get there.
yeah, no, I'm happy to share. I am still active. I'm still doing stuff, but I want these kids to figure it out for themselves. But they're going into a buzzsaw right now. And I say they, I mean, you know, men and women in their 20s. The business is so unrecognizable that I don't know how it's all going to settle out. I mean, my home for many years was 20th Century Fox, and that studio was absorbed into Disney. Can you
Yeah.
imagine a legacy studio like 20th Century Fox just being disappearing? It's
Gone.
unthinkable. And now Paramount is talking about buying Warner Brothers.
That
This
seems crazy, right? Like, and
this
then
can
isn't
be
MGM owned by Amazon now?
the building where I had my first job was a studio, the Culver City Studios down. It was originally the David Selznick Studios at the Gone with the Wind place,
Yeah.
and now it's Amazon. I mean,
Ugh.
literally, it's the Amazon Studios. So the 4 or 5 Northern California tech companies that now own Hollywood, Amazon, Netflix, Apple, and now now the David and Larry Ellison.
Ellison.
That's Oracle, right?
Yeah.
So that's all tech companies from Northern California. And this is very different than Mayer and Thalberg and the original Warner Brothers and Zanuck and the founding fathers of Hollywood. This is a very different group of people. They deal in algorithms. It's so I hope they settle into a pattern where they can make good movies, but I don't think they figured it out yet.
No, clearly, I mean, they just bank on, a great superhero movie to get them through the year and then a couple sleeper hits. But, every Friday you like look and you're like, well, what's out? I don't even know what's out because you can't find it anymore. Like you would know
No,
movies are coming out months in advance. And now you
they
only
don't
know
even
that for
promote
like the
them.
big, huge movies, right?
You don't see the TV spots. You don't see the trailers. They're not promoted properly. And the other thing is they're all cannibalizing movie stars. And eventually these movie stars are going to age out and they're not creating anybody new. Like
Yeah.
you can't just keep making Tom Hanks, Colin Farrell, Russell Crowe movies. These people are in their 60s, right?
Yeah.
And,
And even Tom Cruise.
yeah, he can't go on forever. But the streamers, I'm on a little bit of a rant, but the
That's
streamers are using these people who are famous from movies, right, to make their Netflix original or their Amazon. They're famous from movies. They're not famous from streaming television,
right.
right? They're movie stars that you have the money, you can buy them, and you can put them in your movie, but they're not famous because of you.
No, they get subscribers and that works for now. And
For
yeah,
now,
yeah. And I worry, like I talk about going to the movies with my kids, and it's way different for my kids and their movie going experience. Like you were at the movies every Friday when you were in high school. Every Friday.
And there was something to see.
Yeah, and it was multiple. It wasn't just like the one new movie. There was multiple movies opening up on Fridays, and some of them were horror movies, and some of them were, like and everything in between. And now it's like, if you don't have one streaming service, you don't know what's coming out over there, and then you hear about it over here. And oh, this movie came out in 2023. Oh,
Yeah.
like
Well, if you hear about a title also that you're interested in, you don't know which platform it's on.
yeah,
Is
it
that
gets
is that on Max? Is it on Apple? Is it on Hulu? I don't know where it is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, I hope movies are still they still matter the way that they did in the future. I'm terrified that they're just movie theaters will be a thing of the past. But, every time I think that, a movie does open it up and it makes $500 million, and you're like, well, as long as they're still making $500 million, they're going to be movie theaters. Now, how are they
Yeah.
used and how often they're used? That's the question, and that experience and seeing maybe a low budget movie in a movie theater, which is, that those movies are still great and they're still great to be seen in theaters. Those are far and few between, the movie houses that play to that audience, though they're far and few between nowadays versus, certain cities would have these, movie houses where you would be able to
Right.
see these things. So it'll be interesting, and I hope it all works out and we're all entertained thoroughly, and I hope Hollywood can get back to making movies that people want to see more often than not.
Well, my fingers are crossed.
Yes, me too. Dwight, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. People can buy the book on Amazon. Is there anything else you want that are coming up you want people to know about, or just focus on the book for now?
I think the book answers a lot of questions, and the projects I'm putting together now, it's a little early to talk about them, but yeah, just the book and enjoy the Halloween season. And
Absolutely.
oh, I do want to plug one thing.
Yeah.
Go back. Uh, I'm telling people who listen to your show, go back and revisit the Robert Englund version of Phantom of the Opera,
Oh,
because there's a rediscovery of this movie, and people who weren't either born or didn't know about it, it's kind of slept on a little bit. But this is a horror title that will really surprise you. It's the Phantom of the Opera with Robert Englund as the Phantom.
fantastic. I didn't even know, and I'm embarrassed to say that.
So that's why I'm pitching. And it was in theaters for like 2 weeks and it vanished. But it's been reissued in Blu-ray and I think one other format. But try and find it. You'll find it very, very interesting as a standalone horror film.
And if folks are listening right now in Chicago, there is a video store in Chicago called Terror Vision, where it sells Blu-ray, hard to find anything, things from Ethiopia, China, Hollywood,
Right.
what have you. They sell everything, and that would be the place to buy it. I know they would have it there.
It'll
So
be there. And of course, in today's world, you can also get it online really fast.
yeah, of course. But it's always fun to go hunting for a movie
Oh,
like
it's
we
great.
used to.
It's great to go hunting. So Robert Englund, Phantom of the Opera, 1989. Jill Scholand from The Stepfather is the co-star, and I think it's really worth a watch.
Oh, I'm doing that tonight for sure.
Okay.
Well, thank
All right.
you again, Dwight. I appreciate it very much. Great talking with you.